how's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Naina Radio Experience. This is the 87th episode. I have been missing for a while. I haven't done any podcast in 2019, so this is kind of the first one. I hope everyone's having a nice year already. The reason I haven't kind of been doing a lot of work on the blog or recording podcasts is I've been busy with client shoots, so that's always great news. Otherwise, since the ending of 2018 and the beginning, I've been unwell, my dad's been unwell, there's been, a lot of travel, so I haven't really been home for a long period of time, except when I was recovering, and then I was recovering and I couldn't really talk, my voice was gone. And for those of you who are watching this on video, yes, I am growing my hair. I seem to be getting a lot of comments on my Instagram. Some saying, oh, that doesn't look like you and we want you to go back to your signature hair. And some saying, hey, that looks nice, the new hair suits you, etc. And I'm like, I don't even know what I look like. Like, it evolves, it changes, and it's just hair. I mean, you shave it, it grows back. You leave it alone, it grows longer. And I didn't realize people had such strong opinions about my hair. Like, I'm not even the typical personal style blogger who's putting a lot of photos of their own selves online. So I was a little like, what? Like, it's just hair. I mean, thanks, it looks, I think it looks all right. I've a lot of people like the white streak that I have, which I've had since I was in high school. So let's not digress anymore. I have been busy with client shoots, and I'm thinking I'll come back to the whole podcasting thing this time, maybe talk about actual real life incidents and how to probably deal with them. Maybe some of them I dealt with well, some of them I didn't. So there's this particular incident I wanted to talk about. This was at a client shoot. Obviously, I'm not going to be giving out any identifiers because I don't mean to attack anyone, even if they might have been in the wrong. I mean, I don't know who they are, where they're coming from. So maybe in the moment they made a bad decision, and it's not always about the individual. There's a lot of cultural stuff that also, makes us think that there are things that we can do, are okay to do, etc. So maybe they did it because of that. So I don't want to talk specifically about, there will be no names of people, there will be no names of companies. I will not be identifying my clients because this is nothing to do with my client. It was just an incident that happened. So I was shooting, I don't know if you guys know, but I shoot quite a bit of fashion as well. I prefer shooting behind the scenes and doing storytelling, and that can be done at fashion shows or for fashion designers. But this particular incident that happened, I was shooting behind the scenes for a client, and they had hired fashion designers to do fashion shows for them. So I don't know if you guys know how celebrities work. For example, if you want to work with a celebrity as a brand, you hire the celebrity, so you pay the celebrity, and then you also get media on board. So press will come and interview the celebrities, and the celebrity will talk about your product, and that's how consumers like you and I get to see what the celebrity thinks about the product, how they're endorsing it, etc., etc. So celebrities have handlers and managers, etc. Some fashion designers in India, obviously, who've been around for so long, are so senior that they are also considered celebrities in their own right. They might not be Bollywood, but they dress up Bollywood, they dress up Hollywood, and they are international stars. So I was shooting for this client, and one of these video media interviews was happening with this particular designer. So I kind of knew the video team, and I was standing behind the video team when they were shooting. So when the video shoot is going on, as a photographer, you can't really shoot because the camera shutter sound will be heard on the audio in the video. So I was only shooting whenever when it was not rolling. So every time she would say cut, or the person who was directing it would, say, okay, we're done. Then I would immediately do and, start shooting and clicking and move around, etc. Otherwise, I was literally standing stock still like a deer with my camera, like waiting for the director to say, okay, cut. Or when, the person who's doing the interview is asking the question. So usually that, in this case, was not on the video. So when they were talking to the person they were interviewing, then I was like, and moving from left to right and going on the sides, etc., etc. But usually it's hard to get a good shot in such situations because, the person being interviewed might be talking, and when they're talking, their mouth is open and it doesn't really look nice sometimes. I mean, sometimes you can get a good shot, but usually you don't. So in this case, I hadn't gotten a single shot that I liked. And once the designer got done with this interview, they were going to be moved somewhere else for another interview with another press team. So luckily I didn't lose them. I followed them and I went down with them in the lift, and I was with the people who were handling this particular designer, and eventually they ended up in a different section of where the shoot was happening, where another professional photographer from another magazine had come in and they wanted to shoot sit down portraits of this particular designer. Now obviously when another professional photographer is shooting, I don't want to step on their toes. It's their set, so I don't want to come and just stand behind their shoulder and take photos, because it's like they're taking the same picture, I'm taking the same picture. I might get a picture that might be exactly same to what they've shot, which might end up with their client, which might be the magazine, and I would have the same shot, and then their editor would be like, what the fuck is this? So I don't want to do that as a professional. If I was in their place, I would hate it if another photographer just walked on set and started shooting. Even if you have the time to ask me, usually I don't have the time to talk to you, because celebrities are not available for a long time. So you're like, cut, quickly, let's do this. More than the photographer doing it, it's the celebrity's handler or the manager who's like, jaldi karo, next. So I did not have time to go and speak to the photographer and introduce myself. So what I did was, I basically stayed outside the room. The door was open, and from the side I was kind of taking some shots which were different, where again I wasn't trying for a shot that would end up on a magazine cover. Again, I was shooting more behind the scenes to tell the story of the day. So I wanted a shot where there were other people in the background. You could see the studio lights. You could tell that this particular designer was sitting at a photo shoot. So that was the shot I was trying to get. And while this was happening, in the middle of it, one of the other people who was on set, who was also there at the video interview when we were doing that, so to me, it seemed that they were kind of the manager or the handler for this particular designer. And this gentleman says, can you tell me how to take a good portrait photograph? So I was like, well, you just kind of put your chin down a little, or chin forward a little, and then you get like a nice, and take a shot from like top side, 45-degree angle, and 90% of the cases you'll get like a good picture. And that was a casual conversation. We were just standing around, nothing to do, waiting for the designer to get done, etc. And then we came down for this shot with the other photographer. And this gentleman who had earlier asked me how to take a good portrait says, so why don't you take a picture of me? I mean, I'm sitting there taking the photograph of this designer who's supposed to be my client has hired me for something, and I'm taking their photograph. And in the middle of it, this other gentleman is like, why don't you take my photo? So, and I was like, I looked at him and I think I was so shell shocked that, like, I'm working. How can you even ask me that? He looked like that he was somebody senior from the industry, like older than me for sure. Maybe not. I mean, I'm not a very good judge of people's age, etc. I had no idea who he was. That shouldn't matter. And he's like, why don't you take a picture of me? And I was like, I just ignored him. Because I was in the middle of taking a photograph for my client. So I was like, okay, did I hear that right? And then he's like, come on, take my picture. Once the designer is done and they're done with their sit down shoot, I'll go and sit in the chair and then you take my picture there. And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, no, it is such a preposterous request, where after this I have to run somewhere else and make that shot happen, and then I have to run somewhere else. I don't have the time to sit and take the portrait of someone I don't know. Like, even if you said that I'll pay you money, I'd be like, bro, I'm doing a job here already. Like, I don't have time. I'm already shooting for another client, and this guy wasn't even offering me money. And I was like, I just looked at him and I said, no. And he's like, you're not going to take my picture. And I said, no. And I think he also had an assistant, and the assistant walked up to me quietly and they're like, I think you should take his picture because he's like the CEO of this like company, and like it'll be nice. It'll be like, just do it, okay? And I looked at them and I was like, no. It's, again, in that moment, I think I was so busy taking photographs of what I was supposed to be taking that I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just shoot and I'm going to leave. And I looked at her, the assistant, and I was like, I think the assistant then went back to this gentleman. And the gentleman, like, there are people in this room, the designer is sitting there, and over the assistant's shoulder, he looks at me and he says, "Koi baat nahi bachche, hum aage bhi milenge." So, effectively, this person threatened me that हम आगे भी मिलेंगे, that we are going to meet in the future sometime, and तब हम तुम्हें देख लेंगे types. And he added a bacche in the front of that. And I'm like, I'm going to be 40 years old in a couple of years. For someone to call me bacche, they have to be extremely arrogant. I didn't know anything about them. Clearly, they didn't know anything about me. Again, it shouldn't be relevant. And I think for someone like me, I mean, I've been around for 15 years. I've been shooting for 15 years. I've been blogging for 15 years. So I've had a career spanning 15 years. And from whatever little bit research I did later on, this person, the gentleman who was talking to me, he is a CEO. This company that he's been running is a digital PR agency kind of thing. And that company has been around for 15 years. But this person has had a career spanning more than 20 years. Shouldn't they know better? But I guess it's this whole culture of, where maybe when they were younger, they got bullied into doing free shit. So now it's just a way of them to assert dominance and say, मेरे साथ हुआ था तो मैं भी करूँगा. I don't know, maybe. But I was just thinking that I've been doing this for 15 years. There are a lot of younger photographers, younger people who work with clients, and they get requests like this where people will just walk up to them and say like, हमारी भी photo खींचो. And in such a situation, what do you do? If you're 25 years old and you've just started shooting, or you're 20 years old and someone turns around and says, बच्चे तुम्हें तो हम देख लेंगे या हम आगे भी मिलेंगे. It's like, maybe as a photographer, if that person is having a meeting with a client who might want to hire me, and because this person thinks that, oh, Naina ne meri free mein photo nahi khechi, they might tell the client that, oh, we know a better photographer than Naina who will also be cheaper, and they effectively cut me out of that work. It's possible. I'm pretty sure it has happened, and it does happen. And there are some people who make it a point to make it their agenda to kind of be like, oh, so ek baar Naina ne aise kara tha, so we'll never work with her. And that's kind of fine at my stage, because I do have a lot of clients to choose from. I say no a lot, so I have that option. But if you're younger, it can be scary. You can be like, shit, kaam nahi milega aage jaake. What if this person is someone important? And I think this is all bullshit. You have to put your foot down, and you have to consistently be like, hey, it's cool. You want me to take a picture. I appreciate it. It means you really like my work. So why don't you hire me? Here's my card, and I'd love to work with you, and I'd love to create a portrait for you that you might even want to frame and hang on your wall. Because see, right now I'm shooting, so I really gotta run. I don't think you should shoot for free. It doesn't matter who they are unless you really want to. Like if you're doing street photography and you're taking a picture and there's a really interesting looking person who walks up to you and says like, "Arey, mera bhi ek photo khecho," and that's maybe a personal style project, personal project that you're doing for yourself. That's different. This is in the middle of an assignment where a random stranger is telling me, take my picture, otherwise मैं भी तुम्हें देख लूँगा. Like, what the fuck just happened? So I was thinking that I'm sure this happens a lot to younger people, and they don't know how to deal with it. I think most of us would just be like, just take a picture and fuck off, like बाद में कौन पूछने वाला है कौन फोटो, उसको मेरा नाम ही नहीं मालूम है तो कहाँ से मांगेगा वो फोटो. You know what I mean? But that's the easy way out. That's like, and I think that's also okay, but that, still paints you as someone who said something and did something else. So I would much rather be the person who says no and means it. Like, no, I will not shoot for free. No, I am shooting for a client. And I think that should show people that I'm being fucking professional, because I'm there shooting for a client, and their work, the importance I give to that work precedes everything else. Like, even if it was a celebrity who's like, "Arey, take one picture," no? Like, what are you going to do with that picture? Are you not going to pay me? Are you just going to use it? What does that even mean? And this whole culture of, phone photos. Arey, phone se just take my picture. मैं तो वो भी नहीं खींचती हूँ. I'm like, no. Because that's what I do. It's like, a doctor walking around at a party, and someone walks up to him, like a dentist, for example, and they're like, "Oh, hi, I know you're this really famous dentist. Please look at my teeth. Like, what do you think? Can you give me advice?" Then why is it okay to do it with a fucking photographer? कि क्या बटन ही तो दबाना है तो खुद दबा लो, जो और कोई खड़े लोग उनसे दबा लो, हमारे पास क्यों आ रहे हो? So there is this whole thing of, "Arey, but that person is the CEO." हाँ, so what? I'm the CEO of my own business as well. So fuck right off. You either pay me and you give me a proper setting where I can sit in peace and I can actually produce a portrait that I would like to show as part of my portfolio, and you would like to, maybe print it and frame it. Or nice to meet you, and hopefully there will be a next time. And if you think that you don't ever want to work with me, that's okay too. Like, really, there are how many billion of us again on the planet? Like 7 billion? Like, there is enough work for everyone. Kuch nahi hota. If you say yes to one asshole, you will think that last time bhi kar diya tha, kar dete hain. But if you say no to one asshole once, you'll be like, no, last time I stood my ground, and I'm going to do it again this time. And then it just keeps getting easier every time you do it. So A, I hope you're never in such a situation. But B, if you are, think of the long run. Would you rather be known as someone anyone can walk up to and be like, हाँ यार ये हमारे लिए कर दो free में? Or would you be rather known as someone who doesn't take shit? So yeah, that is the 87th episode of my podcast. The 86th episode was a really long video that I did at Fashion Week. So that doesn't make sense producing it in audio, because it's almost, I think, 30-45 minutes of you'll just hear audio of auto rickshaw and people talking and walking around, and the visuals are important. So if you missed that part, you should go to my YouTube, which is youtube.com/nainaredu, and you can check out that episode there. Again, that one is in Hindi as well, so it's not for my English speaking audience. But yeah, if you guys have anything new you would want me to talk about, professionalism related, photography related, you know where to reach me. My email is there on all platforms. You can leave comments on this video or this podcast. And thanks for listening. Bye. Until next time.